Good morning. This is Omni View, episode 118 for July 20th, 2026. Multiple perspectives, one briefing. New week, fresh perspectives. Let's see what happened over the weekend and what's developing today. A cyber attack on a major Japanese frozen food supplier has forced KFC outlets to warn of shortages, showing how one breach can ripple through daily supply chains for millions of customers. A major Japanese supplier of frozen foods has resumed operations following a cyber attack that prompted KFC to issue shortage warnings to customers. The incident affected production and distribution of items used by the fast food chain and other outlets. Recovery efforts focused on restoring systems and securing networks to prevent further disruption. The supplier systems control inventory tracking, order processing, and logistics routing for multiple restaurant chains across Japan. Once the attack was detected, operations halted to contain the breach before any data could be further compromised or spread to partner networks. Nikkei Asia reported the supplier's reboot as a direct response to the attack's impact on restaurant chains. The coverage emphasizes the operational challenges companies face when digital systems controlling inventory and logistics are compromised. Observers note that such incidents can quickly translate into visible shortages for consumers who rely on consistent availability of everyday products. The story underscores the growing exposure of food distribution networks to targeted digital threats without assigning blame to any single actor. Food service operators depend on just-in-time deliveries of frozen components, so even brief downtime at one supplier can force menu adjustments at hundreds of locations. Historical examples from other industries show that full restoration often takes days or weeks, because each stage depends on the previous one being complete. Teams must first isolate affected networks, then verify data integrity before restarting production lines. Security patching, supplier notifications, and customer communication follow in sequence. Supply chain contracts often include clauses requiring notification within hours of a confirmed breach. This can trigger contingency sourcing by buyers even before the original supplier resumes output. When reports mention rebooting, check whether the company has also described restored delivery volumes or confirmed that downstream customers have resumed normal orders. What happens next? The supplier continues to monitor networks while restaurant chains adjust orders from alternative sources where needed. Shifting now to India, where police clashed with protesters marching on parliament. More than 10,000 demonstrators in India faced tear gas and baton charges while marching toward parliament to challenge Prime Minister Modi's government. The protest, organized under the Cockroach banner, represented the largest public action against the administration in recent months. Police responded with force to disperse the crowd after the demonstrators gathered in central Delhi and attempted to advance on the parliament complex. Organizers described the action as a response to multiple policy grievances that had accumulated over time. Al Jazeera described the event as a significant challenge to the sitting government, highlighting the scale of participation and the authorities' use of crowd control measures. The reporting frames the demonstration as part of broader public discontent over policy directions. Government supporters view the march as an attempt to undermine elected leadership through street action. Participants see it as a necessary expression of grievances that formal channels have not addressed. Security forces stated they acted to maintain public order after the crowd refused to disperse. The differing accounts center on whether the protest reflected widespread frustration or remained a limited mobilization. Next, Turkey has expanded military cooperation with forces led by Khalifa Haftar in eastern Libya. The developments include increased training and equipment support focused on border security and counter-smuggling operations. Egyptian officials have signaled that further advances could cross established red lines affecting their strategic calculations. Al Jazeera presented the moves as an effort by Turkey to strengthen its position in Libya's ongoing divisions. Turkish statements emphasize support for stability and counterterrorism efforts in the region. Egypt maintains a long-standing interest in preventing any single external actor from dominating the Libyan political landscape near its western frontier. The two governments interpret the same military steps through the lens of their respective national security priorities and historical involvement in Libyan affairs. Meanwhile, a student from Henan province gained admission to Tsinghua University with a top score on the national entrance exam, after her family chose not to enroll her in after-school tutoring programs. Xu Yifang from Shucheng High School achieved the required score without the supplementary classes that many families consider essential. Her parents instead emphasized a structured but low-pressure home routine during her final years of secondary school. South China Morning Post covered the student's achievement and the subsequent online conversation about the value of intensive tutoring. Some commentators see the story as evidence that a calmer home environment can still produce strong results. Others maintain that the intense tutoring system remains necessary for most students to reach elite university standards. The shared fact is the student's high score and lack of formal tutoring. Interpretations differ on how widely this approach can be replicated. The debate has centered on whether her outcome represents an exception or a viable alternative for families seeking to reduce educational expenses. Turning to markets, Alphabet and Tesla are among the firms beginning earnings reports this week as investors seek evidence that heavy spending on artificial intelligence is producing measurable gains. Citigroup analysts have stated that the Magnificent Seven label no longer captures the shifting dynamics within AI-related stocks. Market participants are now separating companies that have already generated revenue from AI products from those still investing heavily without clear returns. Bloomberg noted that the coming earnings will test whether current investment levels are translating into sustainable advantages. The analysis highlights that market participants are now distinguishing between companies with clear paths to revenue and those still in earlier stages of deployment. Analysts expect the reports to show whether research budgets have begun to yield deployable tools that customers are willing to pay for at scale. Boeing's CEO stated that the company will require additional years to repair its finances before pursuing a new aircraft program. The focus remains on strengthening the existing 737 MAX production and other current lines. CEO Kelly Ortberg indicated that the timeline for any new jet development extends at least 2 more years beyond current stabilization efforts. CNBC reported the CEO's comments during industry discussions, noting the emphasis on steady recovery rather than accelerated development. Industry observers are watching whether this measured pace allows Boeing to regain consistent delivery schedules and customer confidence. The priority remains restoring trust with airlines that have delayed or reduced orders while waiting for production stability. Now, some progress worth knowing about. Mitsubishi has entered a collaboration with Archer Daniels Midland to develop sustainable aviation fuel. The project aims to produce lower emission alternatives for the airline industry using established agricultural supply chains. The partnership combines Mitsubishi's trading and engineering capabilities with Archer Daniels Midland's access to feedstock crops and processing facilities. Nikkei Asia described the partnership as part of wider efforts to reduce the aviation sector's carbon footprint through commercially viable fuel options. Early milestones include pilot production runs and certification testing for commercial aviation use. The main complication remains achieving cost levels that airlines can adopt at scale while still meeting emissions targets. Both companies have committed resources to meeting international sustainability criteria required for widespread adoption by carriers. Now, to really understand this story, there's something most coverage leaves out. Most coverage of cyber incidents treats recovery as a simple technical fix. Yet the process involves coordinated steps across multiple company departments and external partners. When an attack hits systems that manage inventory, ordering, and shipping, teams must first isolate affected networks, then verify data integrity before restarting production lines. This sequence explains why a single supplier's outage can quickly appear as empty shelves or menu changes for restaurant chains. Knowing the layered nature of recovery helps readers assess whether a company announcement signals genuine progress or only an early milestone. If you want to go deeper on the supply chain incident, compare how Nikkei Asia and regional business coverage frame the same event. Tomorrow, watch for the first detailed quarterly figures from major technology firms on capital expenditure and resulting product performance. That's Omni View. The news can feel heavy, but understanding what's actually happening and what's being done about it beats doom scrolling every time. Stay curious, pick one story from today and read it from a second outlet you don't usually open. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nera Network. Links in the show notes. Quick tip from the network. Try Planetarian Daily next. Daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. Every Nera Network show is free at neranetwork.com. Live dashboards, TSLA, SpaceX launches, the investing scoreboard are all at neranetwork.com/data. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.